Hi, and welcome to a video history of St. Mary's Church in Mokena, Illinois. I'm Marcella Raymond, and I'll be your host during this journey that will take an in-depth look at the history of St. Mary's from its early beginnings in 1864 in a small wood church to the present, as St. Mary's prepares to celebrate its 125th anniversary. There's a spirit here at St. Mary's that is not easily defined, but exists nonetheless. A spirit that is full of hope and love, a caring and generous spirit that has always given to the needs of others. A kind of spirit that unites the parish members into one body that has grown for 125 years. We will end our journey here at St. Mary's Church. This building represents the spirit and essence of St. Mary's, but it is not because of the building that the spirit lives. It exists because of the people who serve and have served St. Mary's, the priests, brothers, deacons, sisters, and of course the parishioners whose beliefs, ambitions, and dreams have made St. Mary's Church and spirit a reality. 125 years ago, 9 families united and built a small wood church just a few blocks from here. This is where the spirit of St. Mary's was born, and this is where we will begin our journey. This is the original St. Mary's German Catholic Church. It was built 125 years ago at a cost of $1,400. The land was deeded to the Chicago Diocese by two early parishioners, Matthias Ender and his wife Margaret, both of whom are buried on St. Mary's Cemetery behind the church. This is the first Catholic church between Joliet and Chicago Heights. At that time, St. Mary's Parish consisted of only 9 families, primarily of German descent, coming to America illusioned with the dreams of a prosperous future. After arriving on the East Coast, they traveled west in search of an ideal home to construct their dreams. They were farmers and tradesmen, simple people who weren't afraid of hard work, new beginnings, or any other challenge they would confront. In the early 1850s, the Rock Island and Pacific Railroad was completed, connecting Joliet to Chicago. The new route ran straight through a small farming community 30 miles southwest of Chicago called Mokena. Because of the railroad, the tiny community began to prosper. Farmers were able to easily transport dairy products to Chicago and Joliet. A need developed for harness shops and blacksmith shops, hardware stores and general stores, for hotels and beer saloons. Jobs became plentiful, and to many German immigrants, Mokena had become the ideal home to build their new dreams. However, the late 1850s and early 1860s had become a difficult time for building dreams. The United States had become a nation in turmoil. It was a period of religious segregation and persecution, of racial prejudices and discrimination. The nation had witnessed the birth of the Industrial Revolution and about to engage in a civil war. The strength and courage of the 9 families that originated St. Mary's was well tested. They bonded together in spirit and love. Their faith in God became the backbone of their lives. Together they built the strong spiritual foundation that St. Mary's would build on, a spirit that is still alive today. The bell that is ringing today is the same bell that rang 125 years ago. Back then it would signal parishioners that Mass would be beginning soon. Today it is more of a welcome, asking us to step inside. This is where St. Mary's parishioners first assembled to celebrate Mass. It's a simple wood-frame structure with plastered walls and ceilings and hardwood floors. It has undergone 2 major restorations, the first in 1924 under the guidance of Reverend Richard Kyman. The second was completed in 1978 under the leadership of Ethel Cooper Seibold. Because the parish couldn't support a full-time priest, St. Mary's was a mission church and remained that way until 1949. It was first known as St. Mary's German Catholic Church because of its strong German heritage. Without a priest in residence, the men of the parish transported German-speaking priests from Chicago and Joliet to celebrate Mass. Reverend Peter Fassbender served as St. Mary's first pastor. On February 23, 1864, Amelia Margaret was the first to be baptized. The first wedding was celebrated on April 30, 1864, uniting John Wachter and Margaret Hefner. John Schmidt was the first buried here on September 12, 1865. Today, the church still serves St. Mary's Parish, hosting weddings, anniversaries, and other special masses and celebrations. As the Mokena area began to grow, so did the number of parishioners. By 1907, the parish had grown from 9 families to 50. In 1926, under the leadership of Reverend Theodore Weinhoff, St. Mary's constructed a parish hall, later nicknamed the Big Barn. The Big Barn served the parish in many ways. Originally used for social events and fundraisers like bunco parties, card parties, bingo, and movies. Wedding receptions were held there along with other dances and banquets. Most notably was the famous St. Mary's Chicken Dinners. Homemade bread and fresh vegetables were provided by the members of the Catholic Women's Club and the Holy Name Society. The dinners had earned quite a reputation and attracted people from as far away as Chicago. The Big Barn proved to be a unique, versatile building. When the parish had outgrown the small church, an altar was constructed in the basement of the hall, and Mass was celebrated there. In 1949, under Father Benedict Pfeiffer, members converted the parish hall into classrooms for a Catholic school. And on September 6, 1949, St. Mary's Catholic School opened its doors to 35 waiting students. Sister Charlotte was the first principal. The school had been guided by the Franciscan Sisters of the Sacred Heart. The parish had continued to grow, and by the 1950s was confronted with the need to build again. The original church was much too small. The parish hall had been transformed into a school, all-purpose room, and rectory. In the hall's basement, Sunday masses were quickly becoming overcrowded. Here at the corners of 195th Street and 115th Avenue, the parish had built a new home for St. Mary's Church and School. But more importantly, it marked the beginning of a new era for St. Mary's, an era that would bring hundreds of new parishioners, a time of spiritual growth and celebration, a time of building, a period that would witness the growing unity of a parish community as they accepted the challenges before them and the strengthening of a spirit that surrounds St. Mary's. It would be difficult for a priest to build a stronger relationship to a parish than the one Father Cecil Coop had during his 16 years as pastor of St. Mary's from 1954 to 1970. It was his leadership that guided St. Mary's into this new era. Almost immediately upon his arrival, plans were underway for the construction of a new church and school. On January 6, 1955, the groundbreaking ceremonies were held and construction was underway. The plans included 8 classrooms that would provide capacity for over 300 students. It was designed so that another wing could be easily attached. The building also included a couple of small rooms located between the school and church that could be used as a rectory for the priest. The new church would have a seating capacity of 450 people. The first Mass was celebrated in the new church at midnight on Christmas Eve, 1955, by Father Coop. Originally, the church was designed so that it could be easily transformed into a gymnasium and auditorium if and when a separate building was erected. As of January 1988, 32 years after it was built, the church had been remodeled into this gymnasium and auditorium. The parish continued to build during the 1960s. This convent was constructed and became the new home for the Sisters of St. Mary's. In 1962, a garage had been built to house the school buses. Later, the garage became a gymnasium for the school and served as the parish hall. Nicknamed the Cow Palace, the building served the parish until 1987, hosting many wedding receptions, fundraisers, dances, plays, and other celebrations. In 1964, this 2-story wing was added to the school, doubling the number of classrooms and allowing hundreds of new students to enroll at St. Mary's School. It was an era of celebration. On May 6, 1956, Bishop Martin D. McNamara celebrated the dedication of St. Mary's Church and School. On September of 1964, St. Mary's celebrated their 100th anniversary. 700 people attended the festival, which included a march from the present church to the old. A solemn high mass was celebrated by Bishop McNamara, Monsignor Romeo Blanchette, and Father Coop. On June 21, 1970, St. Mary's celebrated Father Cecil Coop's silver anniversary in the priesthood. A mass was celebrated with Bishop Romeo Blanchette, and a dinner with Father Coop followed. On August 23, 1970, 2 months after celebrating his silver anniversary, Father Coop would leave St. Mary's. In his 16 years as pastor, he had built a new church, school, convent, and parish hall. The parish had grown from 50 families to 500. Father Coop was followed by Father Patrick Curtis, who became St. Mary's pastor from 1970 to 1972. Father Curtis would become the last Franciscan pastor of St. Mary's. The Franciscan order had occupied the pastorate from as early as 1914. Prior to 1914, the church was served by the diocesan clergy and the Redemptorist and Benedictine fathers. In June of 1972, Bishop Romeo Blanchette appointed Father Vitas Memenas as pastor of St. Mary's. Father Memenas was given the difficult task of remodeling and repairing the aging building and to pay off the parish debt. Because of his fierce determination and ability to motivate parishioners, St. Mary's surged forward to accept the challenge before it. "If you don't do it, it won't get done," became the new theme of the parish. Parishioners organized fundraisers to pay off the debt. Volunteers were organized to remodel and repair the buildings. The parish had continued to grow and now numbered 900 families. The spirit and unity of St. Mary's also continued to grow. On March 14, 1976, a new rectory and administration building was constructed. After a 6-year battle in the spring of 1978, the parish debt was fully paid. During that same year, St. Mary's adopted 2 mission parishes, the Sacred Heart in Hopkins Park, Illinois, and Good Shepherd in Whiteley, Kentucky.
It was also in that year Father Mementas would leave St. Mary's and Reverend James Burnett would become pastor.
At that time, the number of registered families in the parish was nearly 800. Over the next few years, that number would increase to 1,400. The parish found it necessary to once again expand and prepare for a new era. After months of planning, groundbreaking ceremonies were held on June 29, 1986, with construction of the new building beginning in the fall of 1986. On December 4, 1987, the parishioners of St. Mary's celebrated the Eucharist for the first time in their new church. Bishop Joseph Imish, the spiritual leader of the Joliet Diocese, was the principal celebrant at the dedication Mass. The long hours and personal efforts devoted by the parish family shows the spirit found within these walls. We can reflect on a small rural church and the original St. Mary's parishioners entering together to worship together, sharing a beginning which is now the foundation of our parish community. The new St. Mary's invites 1,000 people in the main church and 100 in the daily chapel. The beautiful baptismal font is placed to the right of the altar to emphasize the connection between baptism and Eucharist. The Gospel says, "Unless the seed falls upon good soil, it will not bear fruit." Because the soil of St. Mary's has proven so fruitful, we can celebrate our accomplishments of faith. A commemorative tree of life sculpture located in the narthex of the new church reminds us of a parish family that continues to grow together toward the future. The dedication liturgy brought together the many gifts of St. Mary's parishioners in a common hymn of praise. The new parish hall, located on the lower level of the church building, is a useful addition to the social life of our very active parish community. Throughout its more than a century and a quarter of history, St. Mary's has grown and stretched to meet the needs of its people, outgrowing several times the physical structures built to house the Catholic population it serves. St. Mary's roots dig deep into the soil of the community. The people of St. Mary's, joining with those who have gone before us, dedicate themselves to the future, serving the Lord and serving the community. And so on this 125th anniversary, we would like to thank all of those who have contributed to the success of St. Mary's. Because of your efforts, we know that the spirit of this parish will continue to grow.
Ned Grotowski. I've been a member of St. Mary's Parish for 30 years now. I have seen St. Mary's Parish grow from a small, warm, friendly parish to a large, warm, friendly community. I thank God for all the people that has crossed our paths here at St. Mary's. I wish St. Mary's a happy 125th anniversary and continued success in the future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sister Mary B. I'm just beginning my 11th year at St. Mary's. The 11 years have been the most joyous, interesting, and challenging years of my convent life. This is our 125th anniversary. I want to congratulate all Mokenaites.
Hi, I'm Sister Mary Jane, and I've been here at St. Mary's 12 years, and I teach the first grade. And I just enjoy having these little ones in first grade, and what a joy and what a pleasure I get teaching them how to sound words and then learning how to read. I can't tell you enough the great pleasure I have. And happy 125th anniversary to everyone. It's lovely and beautiful to be here at St. Mary's.
My name is Sister Dominic, and I'm the Director of Religious Education for St. Mary's Parish. The past 6 years has been a privilege and a thrill to watch the growth of many of the children in our faith developments, and also to become close to many of the families that we have here at St. Mary's Parish.
I'm Sister Kathleen, and I've been principal at St. Mary's School for the past 14 years. During these years, I've had the opportunity and the privilege of working with many wonderful families, all of whom have really made St. Mary's home for me. This is a special place, and I love being here and being a part of all that St. Mary's is. I think the reason for this is best found in the words of a favorite song, "Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place." Happy 125th.
Deacon Norman Diabolish. I've been a deacon here at St. Mary's for 10 years, and my ministry is mostly with the people who are preparing for baptism and marriage, so I get to see a lot of the people as they have important events in their life. And it's exciting to be at St. Mary's because it's a growing community, and we see lots of changes, and during the years we've seen many changes, and this is a real milestone for us to reach this 125th anniversary, and I'd like to wish you all the best. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Father Jim Dvorak, and congratulations to St. Mary Parish on its 125th anniversary. I'm very happy to be here at the parish. I love the people and everything that's going on here very much, and I hope I can stay here quite a while because I really do like it, and I like all of you too. Thanks.
I would just like to take this opportunity to wish St. Mary's a happy 125th. The greatest joy of my life has been the last 14 or more years that I have been here, and I know that it will be in my memory forever. And until we meet on the 150th, those of us who are alive have a great anniversary. The spirit of St. Mary's has always been its greatest strength. May it continue for the next 125.